Previously, on the Watchers of Earth 199,999.
It's so bland, it's so boring. Even, the actual, plot elements are bland and subdued. Because, I said,
it feels different than Iron Man, and
his character arc is nothing. I don't think it feels different. It doesn't. Because it still kind of
you have to
has
separate
the same...
that blandness from, what it's doing.
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 199,999. As always, I am your host, Andrew, and joining me, sounding very powerful, sounding like a winner, sounding very important, dynamic, and very unstoppable, and also sounding very powerful, it's my co-host, Seth.
Hey!
Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't be here today because we couldn't afford to have Michael Pena dub over his lines. And our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but he has sworn only to watch and to never interfere.
Damn straight. Today we watched Ant-Man, which originally premiered July 17th, 2015, directed by Peyton Reed, and written by Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Adam McKay, Paul Rudd, Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish. Oh, those are doubles. So. Well, there's screenplay by and story by. Armed with a supersuit, with the astonishing, irredeemable ability to shrink in scale but increase in strength, cat burglar Scott Lang must embrace his inner hero and help his mentor, Dr. Hank Pym, plan and pull off a heist that will save the world. So, Andrew, in a sentence or less, what did you think?
I thought this one was a lot of fun. I thought it held up pretty well. I feel like ever since Thor, we've kind of talked about what is the most Marvel movie we've watched. I think this is the most Marvel movie we've watched.
You keep saying that every movie now.
I don't think I've said that every movie.
I think you said it last movie.
I definitely said it about Guardians. But I thought this one was good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. What about you?
Well, keeping with the trend, if you like something, I did not. And if I did not, then you did. Wait, and if I like something, then you did not. I was bored, actually, which is a little disappointing, yeah.
I wasn't sure how, as usual, I guess, I don't even know why I pointed out. I never know how you're going to come out of this, because
I'm a freaking wild card, baby.
Because I think this one does a lot of things really well. I think this one is pretty engaging. I was worried it wasn't really going to hold up because I don't remember it, or I didn't remember it super well. And I think it's definitely not perfect, but I think it's a lot of fun.
I don't know. I say, keeping with this trend, asterisks, I don't know how much of it is just this is one I was excited to see. And like I say every week, all these movies kind of blend together anymore.
I was talking to my brother about that, about how you've kind of started to conflate a lot of facts from, whenever we get to the next episode, literally every movie that we watched before may as well have been one big movie because you just can't seem to keep them straight.
Yeah, they're all the same.
You said, I forget, I think it was one that we didn't get to yet. I think you said no, it wasn't Doctor Strange. There was some movie that, it was Captain America. Before we saw Captain America, you said it was the same movie as Iron Man. I think you may have said it during the actual episode, when we rewatched it as well, but you said it's the same movie as Iron Man. I'm like, this is not the same movie. I feel like this is the most different of all the movies. And I have some specific questions to ask you when we get into the actual discussion, but I feel like this one, I guess I take that back. Guardians is the most different. But I think this, out of all the non-sequels, I feel like right underneath Guardians, this one's fairly different. I think it does a lot of things well, and very few things poorly. I think some things mediocre or fine, but I don't think this really has many low points for me. I think it's mostly highs and just kind of
middling,
whatever's.
And I mean, I can agree with that. I guess I just feel like the entire thing's middling. And again, I was excited to watch it. I like Edgar Wright. I like Paul Rudd. I remember, the only thing I remember from the trailer, which is the only thing I've seen about it, is the little train fight, and I was like, oh, that looks like it's going to be a fun movie. And then everybody saw it, and everyone's like, this is a fun movie. And I was like, I'm glad to hear it. And so I don't know if just all of that compiled into this, and I was just like, really? We're going to just spend forever doing a montage? Spend like half the movie doing a montage, and I felt like the pacing got a little weird in the heist. I was waiting for the train scene. None of the jokes landed, really. I kept waiting for Paul Rudd to be like a fun character, and he just like really wasn't. Like he quipped, but
this movie was pitched as, this is where like we kind of started talking about how this is a couple movies ago, but this is where the Marvel movies start kind of becoming a superhero movie and this one was supposed to be the superhero movie and a comedy. I remember it being pitched as that. I remembered it as that. Watching it now, I thought a lot of the jokes landed, but I thought they landed in the same way every Marvel. Like, this is just, it's a more lighthearted superhero movie, but I wouldn't call it a superhero comedy. It's much like DC's Shazam, although I think Shazam is a little more of an actual comedy.
I mean, I guess it felt like all the other Marvel movies. Like, everybody quips.
Okay, you're not wrong. Like, you're not, when you put it broadly, you're going to say that, like, it's going to be true about every single movie we watch. But I mean, like, to say that this is, and I know this isn't, I'm not like jumping on you here, to say that this is a superhero movie and a comedy, I don't think it did really anything different than all of the other Marvel movies that were a superhero movie, but they weren't a comedy. I think some of it might just be lower. I think it's a lot looser. I think it's more lighthearted overall, because most of the other movies are serious in tone, and then there's quips. This one felt lighthearted and quippy, and then there's a couple serious moments.
I guess, yeah. I mean,
I don't feel like the through line of the movie is like serious superhero crap. Because honestly, the superhero stuff doesn't happen until the end when the supervillain is full-on introduced. Up until that point, it may as well just be a sci-fi heist movie. And as a heist movie, like, to be fair, like, as a comedy, I don't think it's that great of a comedy. I think it has some funny bits. I laughed at it, but I don't think it's anything astounding. And as a heist movie, it's also very safe and kind of mediocre. It just kind of like, it's by the numbers. It's more of like a heist, not really parody, but homage than an actual heist movie.
It feels more like a superhero movie and a heist movie, and I know Black Panther's supposed to be one, but and Kirsten felt the same, where she's like, "Oh, I like the heist stuff. That was fun," and I, would say it's more heisty than comedy. I might be splitting hairs as I tend to do, but I see what you mean when you say the superhero stuff doesn't really happen until the end. But that's not true. Like,
the superhero elements are there, but it's not an actual like superhero.
He's not doing, yeah, but he's like
until there's a boss fight.
And this is something that I just like, I don't know, you always are so astounded at my ability to just like completely purge all this stuff from my brain when I stop recording. And I'm always just like, how can you just like go in and just be like, I'm going to just pretend nothing existed. And I'm like, of course it's a superhero movie. It's Ant-Man. It's the Marvel Universe. I've been watching 12 movies of this shit. It's a montage that I've seen a ton of times where he gets the suit and he does superhero things and he shrinks and grows, and that's what Ant-Man does, and Ant-Man's a superhero. Like, so when you're like, oh, it's not really a superhero movie until the end. I'm just like, I don't know, the whole first half of the movie in the montage, he's like learning to be a superhero. And your side of it is that like, oh, but it's like, that doesn't have to be a superhero. That could have been any movie. Like if it was called Shrinking Man, the craziest science fiction heist ever. Like, yeah, that's not a superhero movie. But my brain won't let me separate it.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back to like, I think the first big argument on this was in Iron Man, the first movie, where I said, it's just an action movie. Like, there's superhero stuff. It is a superhero movie. There's no denying it, but it's also just an action movie. Like, if it weren't based on a comic book property, it's the same as RoboCop or anything else. Like, this could just be like, if this weren't based on a Marvel comic and being part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and have the name Ant-Man. But like, there's definitely a lot of factors that make it, you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong in that it is a superhero movie. But like, in the same sense, it's in many ways, you could put it in the same area as like Inception, where it's just like, it is a heist movie with a sci-fi twist. The thing here being that the sci-fi thing is specifically a real superhero with a super suit and a super name and superpowers. But in the end, like, if you took the suit out and called it Tiny Heist, and it was just about a guy that didn't wear like a super suit, but instead, I don't know, a harness or a belt that made him shrinky-dink, then I don't think you could have literally all of the same scenes and you take out the final boss battle. You could have all of the same scenes and pretty much just be like, yeah, it's a heist movie. Like, it's just a weird sci-fi heist movie.
So that's what I was going to say or ask is, like, it's easy to say, oh, it's a Marvel movie, it's a superhero movie. But, like, what is a superhero... I mean, the superhero genre is just... It's not tights, because Jessica Jones and...
We've had this talk before about what is a superhero and what isn't many, many years ago in my parents' garage in high school. I remember this very specific conversation, and I remember the thing that made you... Like, we were basically done with the conversation, and then I, for shits and gigs, asked you a question that made it go on for another hour, and that question was... Where does Doctor Strange fall? Because he is part of the Marvel Universe. He is a comic book character. And within the comics, you could say he's a superhero. But if you look at him as just a character, and especially when you get to his
Avengers,
movie...
if he's just like...
It's just Wizard Man. He's just a wizard. And it comes down to, like, he has everything. He has a costume. He has a name.
An alter ego.
He has powers. Yeah, he has an alter ego. He has an origin. Villains. Like, he has all of the bits of a superhero, but he's not the traditional superhero. And it kind of falls into the realm of, like, he is if you want him to be, and he's absolutely not if you don't. Right. Thor is more superhero-y, but Thor kind of skirts that same area. It's not so much in the Marvel Universe because kind of the Marvel Universe doesn't really have superheroes. Captain America is kind of the only one. Like, Iron Man is, and Thor is, but like, where
are they just
now,
superheroes because they've been superheroes for decades?
Captain America is someone who is like, I have an identity and I stand for something, but he's not even like, I guess he's not even a superhero. He's a super symbol because he's not like stopping bank robbers, which I think is more of what the traditional superhero thing is. Like, these are just like action people. In a lot of ways.
Thinking of it in a different... it's also easy to look at a comic book and be like, oh yeah, Marvel, it's a superhero. Like, that's what it's been for decades, like I said. But where does that conversation end if you think of something like The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay? Where, I mean, it's a story within a story, but, like, those are superheroes, mainly because they're playing off of what you expect to be a superhero. But, like you said with the parallel Mandela effect Ant-Man, where it's like, I mean, a superhero movie, I guess you have to fight a villain,
and that's not the end all be all, but I think that's the point that's the point in my brain where I go, like, that's the superhero-iest. That's a thing that you can't divorce it. But
like, you just watched Mortal Kombat. Is that a superhero movie because there's a boss battle?
No, but there's also not secret identities, and I guess it skirts a lot of lines. It's got costumes, it's got superpowers, it's
superheroes are some of its parts,
and it's weird because, like, so far, I think Guardians is the only one that I think isn't a superhero movie because it doesn't have all of those elements. The closest you get is Star-Lord, and that's I think you got to be really generous to give that to him.
Yeah.
And we got Shang-Chi coming up, and I'm very excited for that movie, but the trailer just looks like a Kung Fu movie, although there are some CGI bits that feel like they're going to give me a headache that I'm not looking forward to. But for the most part, it just kind of looks like your straightforward, like, action movie. But the posters that I've seen after they released the trailer show him in one of those, like, basketball texture rubbery super suits that looks like his current costume that's like a tracksuit sort of thing, but it's that rubbery superhero texture. I'm just like, why is he in that? Does he need to be? Does everybody in the Marvel Universe need to fall into this superhero realm? Are we not yet comfortable to just do a thing? Like, just have them be in this universe as a what have you, like, whatever they need to be. Like, we got that with Jessica Jones, but it was on a TV show. And even that fell into a lot of superhero trappings. And it's not that I don't need these to be superheroes, but, like, I'm starting to get this fatigue, not as bad as you obviously did, but it is something where it's like Marvel movies are trying to do something different, but I never feel like they go far enough. And I think that's the big thing with this one is, in the end, it is a superhero movie. Like, I'm not denying that. I just feel like it honestly doesn't really feel, if it didn't have everything around it that makes it very obviously a superhero movie, I don't feel it is one until the boss battle at the end.
Well, it's something that we kind of touch on every week where, there's a ton of stuff that we talk about, either I bring up or you bring up, where we're not wrong, but, like, that's such a crucial part to this experience.
We have very different hills we'll die on. Everything kind of falls down to more or less, like, semantics. Like, how do you define X is basically how you're going to come out of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a little more lenient. I'm definitely more lenient.
Because you're like, oh, this is really different from like, I said, it feels so samey. You're like, no, it's different. And like, I can see why you would say it's different. And I don't know if it's just like a scope thing or whatever. Because I mean, we've complained before where it's just like, yep, now he's in an evil Ant-Man.
I think part of it, I will say, is I kind of look at, it's weird, because I think in some ways I look at the whole, whereas you look at the pieces. But I think when it comes down to like this stuff, like where it's different, I feel like you look at the whole, and when you look at the whole, you are absolutely right. It's just another superhero movie. But I look at the pieces, and I go like, here's where it's trying. Like, here's where it's breaking from that mold. But if you zoom out, you look at the whole, you got introduction to character, gets superpowers, power montage, boss battle at the end. It's got the same beats as all of these.
He has to fight another hero. He has to fight an evil version of himself. And I agree with you that like it feels so safe and sterile.
And that's the one thing I wanted to bring up about this is you mentioned Edgar Wright was one of the writers for the movie. He was originally, as I understood it, supposed to be the director.
Yeah, and then he left he stopped for creative differences.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't let him do which would probably be a better movie or a more.
And that's the thing I think the thing is, you're right. This movie is kind of like safe. It's very much part of that Marvel homogenization, but there are bits, and very few of them, where you can see Edgar Wright. The whole Michael Pena tells a story things, those are so clearly his. Mm-hmm. But that's really the only thing where his voice actually comes through, and I think this movie would have been way more interesting. I don't know, we'll never know. But I feel like, for better or for worse, his movie would have been way more interesting, because I think it would have taken more risks. It would have been weirder. I'm sure it would have been funnier.
It would have been a different movie. Like it would, and I say that as like, it would have been like, instead of saying, oh, it's a superhero movie, but it's a comedy. It's a comedy with superheroes in it. It would have been like, it's a Marvel movie, but it's not a Marvel movie. And, I like the Cornetto trilogy, and coming into this with like Edgar Wright, I was thinking of the Cornetto trilogy. And it's just like, yeah, I want that energy. I want that like fun and just like, I was looking forward to that. And that's not what this is. Same thing with Paul Rudd. Like, granted, whenever I think of Paul Rudd, I think of
his weird dance thing from Tim and Eric.
No, I think of Role Models. That's the first thing that comes to my mind with Paul Rudd, where he's just like a fun character. And I feel like this didn't have that same Paul Rudd energy. This had Paul Rudd as like, hey, Paul Rudd, you're doing a great job, but like, this is a Marvel movie, so maybe not do such a great job. Dial it down a bit. You know what I mean? Like a little caged. There's something about it that just, it didn't have the energy I wanted. As always, an asterisk. Maybe it's the movie, maybe it's me. I don't know.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
She's got to fucking stop that and let me just enjoy these movies because she's getting in the way. But I don't know. Can I talk about things, or what do you want to do? You like to talk
I don't know. You were like mid-thought, and then you just like cut yourself off. I've been
because I was going to go into another thing, and then you're always like, we haven't talked about the movie. We gotta tell the story.
Right now, I am fine with just talking about whatever, and then when we're done, just like broad conversation, then we can get into the movie itself. But right now, like we were kind of on a broad thing, and I'm fine with.
See, I think I'm ready to go. I was going to jump into another thing that kind of bothered me that you would probably want to put it in at a story beat. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in this movie that I feel like the movie thinks it's more clever than it actually is. There's a lot of reveals that are like, whoa! And for me, they were not whoa.
I agree. I also think the heist is incredibly stupid from many angles. It's a thing. This is a movie you can't really think a whole lot about. Mm-hmm. You just kind of like, it's a ride in many ways. Like I think even by the visuals, it's very much kind of like a theme park ride. You just kind of like strap in and let it go, and you just kind of like roll with whatever it gives you.
It's like the first Ant-Man scene where he gets swept up with the water, and it's just like, that's how you watch it. There's no time to really think. And this is where I get kind of, as you can tell, frazzled. I think the set pieces are really nice. I don't think there's any glue holding them together.
I very much agree in a lot of ways. I think this is a movie that feels like it feels like a video game in a lot of ways, and it feels like it was written for the set pieces, like you said. It is very much like
What can we have Ant-Man do?
And then how can we make those things happen? And it's written backwards from that, which I don't think is bad, but I think it means like it is like you said, it is a movie where you can't really think about it because that glue isn't there. You just need to you need to rely that the movie is going to get you to see something fun, and you just got to let it get there. You can't pick at it because you're going to derail that train.
And I think that's why I kind of got bored with it, because one, a lot of those set pieces aren't in that first half, and I didn't really care for the montage. But I feel like a lot of those set pieces don't really have a natural conclusion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Because I think we're going to get to this stuff fast. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go through this. So we start off in, I believe it's 1989, where Hank Pym is resigning from S.H.I.E.L.D. because they are trying to reproduce this Ant-Man technology because he was a soldier and a scientist who created Pym particles, which he used to make a suit.
I think they call them soldier-tists. Thank you.
It was terrible.
And then I was like, I shouldn't say it. And I was like, well, I better say it or else it's going to get too long. But I already waited too long.
I laughed because I thought the alternative of scienters.
Okay, so that's why it took me a little long, because I was like, well, scienter is not good. Soldier-tist is better, but still not good.
But my window of opportunity
is
closing
fast. I gotta commit at some point for one of these. Both of them are going to be stupid, and I gotta say it.
What we needed to do was we needed to take your jokes first and then retroactively write in those set pieces to get you there.
That's what we should have done. We should have made jokes and then...
So Pym resigns from S.H.I.E.L.D. I think a lot of the special effects in this movie hold up fairly well.
I do too, actually. I thought they were really good.
The younging down of...
Bradley Cooper?
Is it Michael Douglas?
Michael Douglas,
I think looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Surprisingly good.
It also helps that he has that, like, freaking peat moss on his face.
They do this more as the movies go on, and it gets better, although there are varying realms where these hit. And this is something where I think it looks good. It is weird with old man voice coming out. He's got kind of a raspy voice that just doesn't really fit that younger face. And we also see Peggy in some makeup. Old lady makeup, sorry. But not like super old, like when she died. Or did she die? She was just old in Winter Soldier.
I mean, she died at some point.
I don't think she's died yet.
She has dementia. Or Alzheimer's.
So she's dead to her. Her family's dead to her. She died. She died a long time ago. She's just still breathing. And then Howard Stark is a weird thing only because they had cast someone to play him younger, but they had already cast someone to play him older before that. And while it would not work to make the young guy older, since this is a room full of people either made to look younger than they are, or whatever the actress's name is who plays Peggy, made to look older than she is, he's just there. And I think that's where it kind of starts to fall apart a little bit, because I think he looks more natural than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And when you superimpose that on the very next scene of Scott in prison, there's harsher lighting because it's darker and he's kind of got like very few lights like over him. He looks immediately more real because in order for those de-aging things to work, they need to be brightly lit. Mm-hmm. And so the harsh change in lighting made him it made everything else retroactively look wrong because he looks so much more real suddenly to me.
They all look like they have like putty on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're this weird, like, too smooth.
But Lang is getting out of prison. I did not quite understand what he did. They keep saying he's a cat burglar, but I guess he also worked for a company and then stole their secrets, and he did it by hacking, right? That's what they said when they gave his backstory. But he's also like an actual, like, let's leap over walls and
I didn't
parkour.
think he hacked them.
I thought that's what they said. I could be wrong. I thought when Michael Pena was giving his whole backstory to the audience and the other two guys at the table, I thought they said that he discovered the company did something, and so they were
overcharging their customers, and then he like did a Robin Hood thing.
Yeah, I thought he did it by hacking, or maybe hacking was just part of it and sneaking and cat burgling. But they keep speaking.
Oh no, I looked it up right now. It said hack. Good job.
Well, they also keep speaking of it as if he was a full-time like cat burglar,
like a career criminal.
Yeah, but as far as I understand, that's the only job he ever did. And it wasn't like for gain. It was for altruistic reasons, more or less. So I was a little confused as to exactly where he was supposed to stand. I think it was, and I bet it was probably he was a petty criminal before in the original script, and then Marvel said, "Oh, we got to tone him down. Our heroes still have to be good. So if they do something bad, it's got to be for a good reason." And I could be wrong, but I felt like everything that came before the movie that he did felt very just disjointed to me. What?
I'm trying to figure out his life history. This is stupid image on here.
What?
I'm gonna send it to you.
He's also like he got a master's in computer science, or no, he got a master's
electrical
in
engineering.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I love me some electrical engineering.
All right, what are you sending me? Did you send it?
No, my mouse is running out of batteries, so I kept trying to take a snapshot of this. There you go.
This better be good as that. Okay, that was worth it. Oh, that made me lightheaded. That was worth it. I was like, this better be good as that Ooga Booga red skull you sent me. I gotta tell you, it paid off.
It just says, Lang being subdued by one of the guards, and one is a hyperlink.
Lang is subdued by his enemies. You don't remember that reference.
This is so dumb.
Now what?
So I clicked on the one hyperlink, and it took me to M. Allen, and here's the picture for M. Allen.
Okay, that's funny.
This is so dumb.
That's funny. Too bad I gotta cut all that out because it makes no sense without visuals.
These are literally the two pictures on this guy's Wikipedia.
I like it. M. Allen's picture is just like his crotch and the hand going to scratch it.
This is so dumb.
Oh, whew, boy. That's
this is
funny.
So good.
All right, you ready to continue? How about that M. Allen page? Relationships. Allies, Christine Everhart. Enemies, Scott Lang.
Like he has, like that's his supervillain origin. Like he's not just a
status alive,
a 9-to-5er.
Scott gets out of prison. He has a daughter named Cassie and an estranged ex-wife
named Judy Greer,
who will not let him see.
Who will not shut up.
Who will
you know
not
what I didn't like?
What didn't you like?
Her.
Don't say that little girl. She's adorable.
No, she's good. I didn't like Judy Greer. Her acting was fine, whatever. But like,
she's barely in the movie. I can only think of two scenes that she's in, and one is when she tucks Cassie into bed and says, "Your dad just gets confused sometimes," and the other one is when she kicks him out of her birthday party and yells at him on the porch.
I just thought she was a little harsh. I know he's in jail.
That's something that's weird. And again, I think it's also weird because they really soften him to make it like, you know, his crime seemed to be altruistic. It seemed to be the only crime he's ever done. Her whole thing is she's like, you can't come to this birthday party because fuck you. You need to get a job and get a job, get an apartment. And he's like, yeah, I tried to get a job, but I can't because of my record.
Like he's
so
trying,
it's hard.
Yeah, like.
And it's weird because, like, it's supposed to be, like, you know, he's down on his luck, and so he really needs to be pushed to... Because the whole reason is after this conversation where she's like, until you can afford to...
He's like, I'm done with crime.
Yeah, do all this, you cannot see Cassie, and that's what pushes him into doing the heist that kicks off the whole movie.
And I mean, I don't know, like, it just seemed... Maybe it's because the movie's in Scott Lang's favor, and so, you know, you obviously root for him. But it was just kind of like, his daughter knows who he is and loves him. It's not like he's a deadbeat.
And she treats him like he's a bad influence, but like in the few scenes that we get before that happens, which is one, it shows that like he seems to be a good father who cares,
and like I know there's the bit where he has the ratty scary rabbit thing, but she likes it. So what's
it seems, and I took that, and you could take that as like, yeah, he just grabbed whatever, but it seemed to be like he knows his daughter. Yeah, he understands her. And so that seemed to be another step of like, he's not a bad dad.
He's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't like Judy Greer, because I was just like, I don't know what like, yeah, I know you want your child support, and I know you want like him to have a job, and I can understand the side of like, well, I don't want you to get hurt and then have to like explain this because you're doing crimes.
But again, like I said, they give him, as far as we understand, he has done one crime. And it was again altruistic.
I'm just staring right into M. Allen's dick.
He did it for seemingly noble reasons, and
maybe she just doesn't like him hanging out with Michael Pena.
Maybe that's it. It's just weird. Because like I said, it's there. It's another one of those things. It's like one of those very thin layers of glue to hold scenes together.
Like we need him to have a daughter, but we can't just like have a daughter that lives alone.
We need him to put on the suit. I will say one thing about the daughter that I really liked is until the fucking end of the movie fucks it up. This isn't a movie with a love interest. This is a movie with like a father-daughter relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that is it's much more interesting. I think it's a little easier to understand, especially because like I think there's more narrative shorthand with a father-daughter thing, that there's just an understood relationship, as opposed to these other like all these movies where they just introduce a love interest that they've known for like 48 hours, and then it's like the worst scenario. Well, in two different directions. The worst scenarios are Iron Man with Pepper Potts, where he's like creepy and lecherous, and then somehow just wins her over because he doesn't change.
Otherwise, then how about they even joke about like, well, you want a job, right?
Thor, where Thor's is nothing. Like he knew her for 48 hours, if even that. And then it's supposed to be like he will transcend time and space to be with her. And so this one is better. And it's so good that like when we are introduced to Hope, she is set up kind of as an antagonist, and then like it seems to be like a begrudging friendship, and then suddenly at the end it's just like we got to do the no homos, and so they make out suddenly, like right before the movie's over. And I do believe the second movie puts a stop to that, but it was something where I was just, you were so close, movie, like you were so close, and yet you did it. And there were like moments early where I thought it was going to finally be like, this is where they set up the love interest. Like when he has the heart-to-heart with her in the car, and I was like, he's going to like go for a kiss or something, and then she's going to turn him down, and it's going to be like an awkward thing. But he doesn't. He has a legitimate heart-to-heart, and then gets out of the car. Anyway, because he's not able to see his daughter, because his wife is, I don't want to say she's mean, but she is. I don't know. I'm on his side because he's the protagonist of the movie, and maybe I have more information than the wife has. Maybe this isn't his only crime. I don't know. But based on the information I'm given, it seems like it's just like, let him see his daughter, lady, at least on her birthday. Like, it's not like he doesn't remember. Like, normally these movies would be like, you forgot her birthday because you were too busy doing a crime. But no. Like, he remembers. He
seems pretty all right.
He gives a gift. Like, he seems to care. He's invested in this, and I don't know. So Michael Pena is trying to get him to do some kind of job. And after he finds out that, like, he is without a job because he got fired from Baskin Robbins, he'll do this heist so that he can make enough money to see his daughter. So they tell him about the job. Everything about this job is insane, especially when you get to the reveal of where it actually came from. It is complete and utter nonsense. Because Michael Pena says that he was out with his cousin or something, maybe his friend, and
there's a bunch of them.
He was with his friend who heard from his cousin, who heard from his girlfriend that there's some rich guy who has a safe and it's probably worth a lot of money or something. So he agrees to go and crack this safe. I mean, he's got skills to crack safes, so I assume he actually is a cat burglar, but we only know of one thing he did.
He's got like super skills to crack super safes.
And they break in when he finally breaks open the safe. He finds out that there is actually a suit in there and nothing else. Well, there's some like laboratory crap and schematics and stuff. So he decides to steal the suit. They leave. He tries it on in the bathroom for some reason, and because he is a electrical engineer or whatever, he is able to fiddle with it to get it to work, even though I would assume it would just work without him. He like hooks some stuff up to it, but I assume, especially since we learn later that it was supposed to be stolen by him, and he was supposed to put it on, that it would have just worked without him doing anything to it. But he puts it on, and he presses a button, and it makes him go shrinky-dink. Those buttons are put in a position where I feel like he's going to be accidentally shrinking and growing willy-nilly, but I guess it's not that bad, because you can't grow when you're already tiny, and you can't shrink when you're already... Or you can't grow when you're already big, normal size, and you can't shrink when you're already tiny. So I guess it's not that big.
It's only 50-50, but still, like, that's right where your punching is.
Yeah, and it's just like an easy little button right there. He shrinks, and he hears a voice in the helmet, telling him, like, this is trial by fire. And he sees Michael Pena's Michael Pena, because Michael Pena comes in and, like, decides to take a shower at that moment. And this is, I think, the one part of the movie that really tired me out. Like, I didn't mind... I thought the CGI was mostly good. I didn't really get exhausted like I normally do on these. Like, most of this was pretty good. This whole scene, though, and I think it's because it's irrelevant, where he just keeps falling through cracks over and over again, and then running through new scenarios, and then falling again, and it all happens in the span of, like, I don't know, 2 minutes. it's just like way too much, way too fast for me.
Yeah.
'Cause he falls, there's like water, and then because Michael Pena like turns on the shower and there's water, and then he falls to the ground, and like sometimes he lands like super dense, and sometimes he just kind of like pip, just like pops, because he like breaks through the floor multiple times, but then other times like when he lands on the record player,
it's just like things to happen.
Yeah, he there's like a dance party going on in the apartment below his, and so he's like running through that, and they're dancing all over the floor, and he's weaving in and out of feet, and then there's a giant rat, and then he gets on a rat trap, and he goes flying, and then I think he goes, oh, there's a vacuum, and he pops out of the vacuum, and then he like, I think what the rat trap is what sends him out the window, and he lands on some dude's car and then grows big. It's
just like, I mean, again, it's like they just said, what fun things can we do with Ant-Man? And then they picked one to be the climax, and then they're just like, okay, we'll just make a montage and throw everything else in there. And so it all has zero consequence. It's all just stuff happening.
It's even weirder because he's just like it's just things of falling. Like he just runs until he falls, and then that's where you get to the next set piece. He just falls from
they have no natural conclusions.
Well, he tries to return the suit. Well, he does return the suit, but the cops are called, and so he gets arrested, and then Hank Pym shows up pretending to be his lawyer, and he says, hey, I wanted you to steal that because I need you for a thing. And then they reveal how, like, all those people that knew about the heist is because he put an envelope with cash in a lady's car. I assume with a note that said, like, hey, here's some money, tell this guy about... And then he just, like, relies on this, like, game of telephone, machine. Which is stupid. He could, if he wanted that, he could just go straight to Michael Pena. Or, I mean, at this point, like...
Just tell Scott Lang.
Yeah, there's no... What's with the subterfuge? Like, does he's been watching Scott for a long time, so why does he need to watch Scott, like, break into this safe? If that's the case, he could just go to Scott and say, like, hey, I want to hire you to do a job without, like, playing out all his cards by saying, like, hey, I got a shrinky-dink.
Yeah, just like, hey, break into the safe.
I need you to break it. Like, I have a job. Here's how much I'm willing to pay you. You're going to steal from my company, so
you're not going to get in trouble.
And then, like, I need to test your skills, though, so do these things. The whole, like you said, Rube Goldberg machine of it is fucking dumb. And it's just frustrating because, like you said, it's just because we need scenes like these to happen. Like, they want to have the fun scene of him shrinking without knowing what's going on, but in order to do that, he needs to get a hold of the suit without knowing what's going on. So, and they want to have, like, the heist stuff to establish, like, it's there to establish that, you know, he's a cat burglar. I know we were told this, but that way we can see it. But it's dumb. It's very dumb. So, Pym tells him that he needs him to break into his company that I guess it's no longer his company. It's the company he built. But the new owner, Darren Cross, is trying to replicate the Pym particles. And so he made his own shrinky-dink suit. But the Pym particles are too dangerous, and he doesn't want people to get a hold of it because Darren Cross shows him like a very like, I'm absolutely not evil, I promise video telling everybody what these things are going to be able to do. And there are like shots of like people getting lasered through the head, and it's bonkers.
All of his stuff is bonkers. Like, even at the end, how about he took time to make a little PowerPoint presentation with Scott's family to prove that he, like, knew them?
That's so that we can explain how he knows where to go at the end. So we need to make it very, very clear to the stupid audience shoveling popcorn in their face how he knew where to get there. Because that's the one scene where they need to make sure that we know how we got there. All the other ones, we can just explain it as he got shrinky-dinky and did whatever. But that one we got to make clear. So they want him to break in and steal the suit or destroy the suit. I honestly don't remember. I assume he was supposed to steal it. Well, they were going to set up bombs and blow up the building. But I think he was also supposed to get the suit. Because otherwise, what's the point of the second half of the heist where he gets the suit? Where he goes to where the suit is?
Because it's out in the world and ran by a crazy person.
No. When they do the heist, the whole thing is they're going to blow up the whole building. But after he sets all the bombs, and they set them for like 15 minutes, then the rest of the plan is that's where they got to turn off the Mission Impossible lasers and go down to where the suit is. So I assume he was supposed to grab the suit too.
Maybe.
This movie does not make sense if you think too much about it.
Stop making me think too much about it. That doesn't make sense.
Okay, so I know you're going to say you hated it, but what did you think of the origin stuff in this movie? Because I know you're going to say it's too long and you hated it. I'm going to argue that it's not very long at all. I actually kind of timed it.
like the montage?
I guess the whole thing. The origin stuff is really like, you mentioned in Iron Man that you hate that, like, he's got to build the suit, and then you got to have these scenes of him like flying around. And we get this in this, but I feel like it's to a purpose. Like, it's explaining what he's able to do. It's also lumped in with the heist, so it's also like explaining the heist and how it's going to work. I guess. And it's also like the whole thing, I think, takes roughly 10 minutes, give or take. I lost track of the time for a bit because there's also a bit in the middle or towards the end where he talks to Hope and they have a heart to heart, and then they come inside and then they learn what happened to Hope's mother. So I think the whole like heist plus learning the powers thing is probably like maybe 5 to 7 minutes, give or take, of the runtime. And I was just thinking while I was watching, I was like, I bet Seth hates this because you've hated literally if there is a scene at any point where somebody has to learn something in these, you're like, fuck this.
Fuck learning.
I already know, so they don't need to know.
Well, the answer is...
The answer
is I felt like it took forever. I feel like the entire movie up until the point where they actually go on the heist was origin stuff.
I mean, and this goes back to the discussion we had at the beginning and the discussion we had in other movies. I define origin very differently because...
How does he get the suit? He's got to break in. How does he get... Okay, now he's got to learn how to use the suit. Okay.
You're not wrong in that origin stuff, but that's also the start of any movie. Like, just like Iron Man, I agree, in Iron Man, we don't have to watch him build the suit all over again, but there is an origin to just the story of this character and the conclusion of this movie. Like,
I guess
there is set up to the rest of the movie, and I feel like this is set up to the rest of the movie, because, like, by your definition, Inception is mostly origin. Because we gotta learn about the Inception machine. We gotta get all the crew members to do the heist. And we gotta learn what the heist is. And that's all origin stuff to you.
And it's just
but it's not, because it's not a superhero movie.
That's the brain thing. Like, because to me, I mean, I feel like you gotta include him falling through all the floors.
I will say that's the origin stuff that you could cut. And I agree, that can get cut out of the movie entirely. But even that, I think it's maybe 5 minutes, if even that. It feels long, because I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem with this movie for me, and why it feels boring is because, again, all of these set pieces don't really have any consequence to them. They all just kind of start and stop. Nothing follows through. And so, you say, what do you think of the origin stuff? And I think of that as part of origin stuff that's been going on for the past 45 minutes, but also like, oh, well, that's them kind of like planning the heist. I think it's interesting to like learn his ants and stuff like that. But it's still just another montage that feels fairly similar to the other one where he's falling through floors.
The ant stuff I find funny because they are basically like video game powers. It's like, this is the ant that allows you to fly. This is the ant that allows you to cross. Yeah, it's like
playing Pikmin.
This is the ant that can do an electrical charge that later on we do like full on, like, they're basically little gross Pikachus.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand his little growing shrinky discs.
What don't you understand about him?
Mainly, I guess, at the end, when he throws it at Yellow Jacket, but, like, Yellow Jacket can do that. So, like, why wouldn't he just be like, that was annoying?
I think it's a disorientation thing. Like, I agree, Yellow Jacket should be able to immediately reverse it, but I assume it's probably something like, if I can get him to grow big real quick, like,
yeah,
it's the same as, like, throwing sand in his eyes.
But he didn't throw sand in his eyes.
Well, he can't because he shrunk him. So you look real stupid right now.
And then
they are the sand. He throws himself in his eyes.
You're not letting me say that instead of Yellow Jacket just growing big, he said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a big train set piece right here?
Yeah. I don't know. I like it, and again, it's just because it's like fun stuff. I like the whole like let's just like randomly shrink and grow crap.
I do too. I mean, a lot of this again, I'm not wrong, but you're not wrong, but if this was the first movie we watched, I'm probably on board. It's just so, I don't know, like, yeah, it's fun, but at what cost? You know what I mean? Like,
what did we sacrifice?
Yeah, like, I could have been doing something else for, and it's not as much, again, it's not as much as I could have been doing something else for 2 hours. I have to look at it as, this is the project, this is the show, like, this is the 12th set of 2 hours. That's what all this has been for, is me sitting there being like, there's no glue. I'm just watching him, like, do admittedly fun things with ants, but, like, what do I care? Like you said, it's like a video game, where if I just watch somebody play a video game, like, if you were playing Judgment, and then I just came over, and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna like, I have like one more story mission in Judgment, or like a few story missions in Judgment left, so I'm just gonna finish it. And I'd be like, yeah, I want to watch it anyways. That's what I feel like it was watching this, where I was just like, these are cool things happening. I don't really care about anything else going on. It's nothing more, I could have watched this in a trailer and then like, oh, these are cool things. That's probably going to be a sweet ass movie.
I think the other thing that really stands out as like unnecessary, but I don't know, it might be something that doesn't bother you because it's one of those things that's just like unique to these movies. So it's kind of fun. But I remember not really caring for it the first time I watched this is when they reveal that they need to steal something. I don't even know what it was from the Avengers headquarters. And then he has a fight with Falcon and it's fine. It's fun. There's some interesting stuff. There is a part where Falcon just like pulls out these Uzis and just starts shooting at nothing because we do learn that he can see Ant-Man because he's got those goggles that can see him. But he just like pulls out these Uzis and just starts shooting at the ground. He's like, I'm going to hit that tiny little guy. Just watch me.
That's like my perfect example of what this movie is, where it's just like, yeah, but at what cost?
Like I agree. I don't care for that. Like, it's fun. It's like fun world building stuff, and it at the end kind of sets up in a very stupid way how he's going to factor into Civil War.
And I did like how Kirsten mentioned when Paul Rudd mentions like, first off, why don't we call the Avengers? And she's like, oh yeah, this is like part of a big universe thing. She didn't really care for that. But I mean, I liked it. They're finally starting to kind of bring everything together and
it is weird with this Falcon thing. Thinking back on a movie that you will not remember discussing and you will not remember taking this stance, but it's the episode we uploaded today. There's the Jeremy Renner bit in Thor, which while it is not as big of a deal as this Falcon scene is, I find that scene more obnoxious and unnecessary than this. Because this is still like somewhat of a story beat. It's fun little world building and like connective tissue to the other crap. So there's like, and it's a fun little fight. And I remember you defending the Hawkeye scene, just not necessarily liking it, but just being like, yeah, whatever, it was inoffensive. And I was just like, it is just like a nothing scene where we see some guy that we don't know, where everybody like pretends like he's important. We like keep cutting to him holding this arrow or this bow that he never fucking fires. And then the scene's over and we never see or hear from him again. And at least the Falcon thing is like at the center of some kind of plot thing that is entirely unnecessary. You could cut that out and say you don't need the whatever MacGuffin they went to go get. But it like ties into the end and it ties into Civil War, again, in a stupid way. But it does explain how like Ant-Man would show up because someone knows him. And I just like, it's completely superfluous and unnecessary. But it's like a fun world building thing. Whereas I found the Hawkeye thing to be just like fucking stupid.
And I think we might have said this before. You tend to view these as kind of movies. Did we say this at the beginning where you view them as movies in a vacuum?
I mean, I don't view them in a vacuum. I guess I grade them in a vacuum.
Whereas I'm just like, I am watching the MCU, and you're like,
you were watching the MCU multi-series. Whereas I'm just like, I'm watching these movies, and at the end of the movies, information from other movies may affect them, but I grade them on their own. Did I enjoy my experience with this movie? Yes or no? Is it better or worse than other movies? Yes or no? Did the existence of other movies make this movie better or worse? Yes or no? But I grade each of those things separately, and then I take all those yes or no's, positives and negatives, all those factors, and then I put them together, and then that's where I kind of like grade the thing as a whole. But you just look at it as watching like basically the next episode of the Marvel thing.
Yeah. And that's what with this Falcon, like I agree, totally superfluous. And same thing with Clint Barton in Thor, where it's just like, who cares? But it is, I mean, kind of like how I was saying in the first Avengers movie, like it's kind of neat to see this thing that shouldn't exist.
Yeah, especially because this is the first movie that really does it.
Yeah, this kind of, I mean, everything else, like you said, was just, here's a movie, and then at the credits, it's like, oh, remember, there's more movies. Whereas this feels like an episode in a series. This feels like it's a continuation of things.
I guess I wouldn't say it feels like a continuation of things, but it feels like another piece of the universe.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones feel like outside of their own sequels and then I guess the Avengers stuff, they're mostly just kind of like their own thing.
By a continuation of things, I guess I mean like they finally answered the question of why not just get the Avengers? The Avengers exist in this universe. You know, we saw...
And I think the answer for why is better than the comic book reason where they're like, why don't we get the Fantastic Four? And they're just like, the Fantastic Four are in the negative zone again.
Yeah, I mean, it
because
worked.
It's Thursday.
It worked that Hank was like, I've been trying to keep this out of Stark's hands forever. I'm not going to hand it to him. That was good. And then like the Falcon thing, what was the last movie we watched? Ultron?
I think so. I will say, I remember everything we watched. I don't necessarily remember the order, and they start to blur together. But I believe Avengers 2 was the last one we watched.
I always think the last one we watched was the one that I kind of liked the most at the time. So I'm always just like, the last movie we watched was Guardians of the Galaxy, because that's what I remember. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it was Age of Ultron. And so what I mean by, it carries through, it's kind of like the next episode, is that, hey, Falcon was kind of thing in Ultron. We see the bunker in Ultron. It's more of a direct lead-in, as opposed to, like I was kind of complaining about with The Winter Soldier, there is there's 3 movies in between Captain America and The Winter Soldier, and he's only in one of those, and it's the first one. And so you just kind of like go through movies without him. This felt like, hey, we're focusing on Scott Lang, but, he's in a world that has been established. And the world continues to turn. Yeah,
it's a like I said, it's a neat little piece of world building, and I don't mind it. But
it's just
a
waste of our time.
I think when you look at it as a whole, I think it is the most superfluous scene in the movie. I think it's even more superfluous than the Scott uses the suit for the first time, because while I do not care for that scene, at least I understand its purpose in the movie. It is there to be like, he's got to have his first experience in the suit, and it's going to be weird and disorienting, and
it's a good shot when he's in the bathtub and like. Really,
there's fun stuff that happens.
Yeah, the field of view and stuff, and that's the whole movie. There's fun stuff that happens. It's just ... I mean, what do they even do with the little MacGuffin thing that he steals from Falcon? He puts it in his pocket.
I think Hope, when Michael Pena takes out that guard with the superpower bitey ants that they never use again. Well, they try to use them on Darren, but they don't knock him out or do anything. He's just like, I got bit by one, and that was. Whatever. I think she opens like a drawer in one of the supercomputer things and sticks it in there. I think.
Okay.
I don't know what it did. I don't know what it was. I don't even know if we were ever told. Like, I would not be surprised if we were never told what that thing was or what it does.
I'm gonna see here. I'm gonna see if I can find something really quick on it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's dumb when he just shoots his Uzis.
Yeah. But it's like funny dumb.
It's roll your eyes dumb. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would call it like. It's like a comedy, but with superheroes.
Oh, it's not like hilarious. It's just like, it was amusingly dumb. It was something that was so
it's like
stupid
something I would watch
it.
in like a bad movie and be like, this is so goofy. How about I'm on the Marvel database trying to figure out what happened in this movie, and it just says, the plot of this film is unknown.
Many have tried to comprehend it. So they do the heist, and the heist is also unnecessary but full of like fun things, because they go like, okay, Darren's going to be setting up all these extra plans and things to keep Ant-Man's from Ant-Man getting in.
Okay, how about he's like, we need to increase security tenfold and install crazy small mesh and laser swords and freaking tons of 800 metal detectors, and he does that in 24 hours.
Yeah,
like.
They also train Scott to be a good fighter, and like I think when Hope says like we had weeks before or months before, and now we have like days.
Yeah, it was like a week, but it was just something that he's like yelling into his phone to Hope about like, we need to up security, and then she tells Hank and Paul Rudd about like, he's up in security, and you would think somebody in there would be like, yeah, but not like right now. Like, we just do it tonight. None of that stuff matters. You know what I mean?
I mean, everything about this heist is crazy. Like, they say they need a new way to get in, and Paul Rudd is like, well, they can't install super tiny Mission Impossible lasers in the water system, so we'll go in that way. And I thought, why wouldn't you just, like, shrinky-dink yourself and, like, either go in, like, Hank's pocket or, like, Hope's pocket? Like, Hope walks through the whole facility. She has full access everywhere.
Yeah.
Why not just go in her pocket? Like, is the metal detector going to pick that up? Or even if it did, like, couldn't he just jump over it? Like, it is shown that, like, unless you're really looking for him, you don't really see him. He could just, like, walk in her on the top of her head. And then when she goes through the metal detector, he just jumps on top of it and then, jumps back on her head and slips into her pocket. And then they walk around the facility. But instead, they need to have this whole, heist thing where he brings 1 million ants to die in the water system. Because the ants are just, tools in this. Except for Anthony, who dies. And then he's like, oh my god, no, the only one I named. The rest of you fuckers, though, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, is, I guess you need to lower the water to get the ants in. But I assume you could just get ants in anywhere?
Ants seem to just,
materialize.
As this movie seems to posit that ants literally live anywhere. Everywhere, at all times. If you had one of those little earpiece things to call them, they would call them crawling out of, out of your pockets. They just come wherever.
But, Ant-Man can be in water. He doesn't need to breathe in water. Because he has a helmet, right?
Yeah, I assume the helmet, because he also apparently can't shrink without the helmet on.
Yeah.
And I assume that's because, the helmet is the only way that he could breathe when he...
Well, and it was, a thing about, protecting the brainwaves from PIM particles, and that's why all of Darren Cross's stuff turned into goo jelly.
I know they were saying, Darren Cross is going crazy because he's using the off-brand...
He's killing sheep.
PIM particles, and it's, affecting his brain and making him go crazy. And Hank says, it was affecting him, and that's why he can't wear the suit anymore. I would also think because you're an old man, and
you look like thin Mike O'Malley.
And you got to wonder how much is it affecting him that he's using the Paul Rudd?
Well, how about Hank Pym is when Paul Rudd says, "Why don't you do it? You should have your daughter do it." And he's like, "No, she can't." And he's like, "Okay, well, why don't you do it?" And he's like, "I would love to, but the suit fucked me up, so you do it. You get fucked up."
To be fair, I guess there is the argument of that, he probably wore it.
He did say, I wore it forever. But it's still, you're not going to get that much cancer. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't have to tell Paul Rudd that. I can't wear it anymore because it fucked me up, man.
So, yeah, the heist is just, a whole bunch of nonsense, and it's fine. But in the end, they go to get the suit, but then it turns out that Darren Cross knew all about it, and he takes the other suit out and traps Ant-Man inside the thing that has the suit. And then he gives his whole villain speech, and he reveals that he was going to sell it to Hydra.
He did sell it to Hydra. And then Ant-Man breaks out of the thing by using one of his shrinky-dink or growy-dink Tron
things. Yeah, the Tron discs. Speaking of Tron, that is something where the de-aging did not look right. Darren Cross escapes. There's a big old helicopter scene, which was another part where I got a little bit of a headache, only because the helicopter was a lot... the scene itself was fine, but every time they did the external shot of the helicopter, I just had, flashbacks to the big mirror jet from Spider-Man. I was like, ugh.
So, we talked about how dumb it was that Falcon shot his Uzis out of a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
I know he's, supposed to be crazy, but how stupid is it when Darren Cross shoots his gun at ants and he kills one?
It's so... he doesn't just kill one, he kills the one.
But that's the other thing, and a good point about this movie is that there's the scene where Hank is like, that's number 258 or 304 or 601 or whatever. I don't know. They don't have names. They're numbers. There's 1 million ants. And then Paul Rudd's like, no, you're my favorite. You're Anthony. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a heartless bastard. But when Darren Cross hilariously is shooting a pistol at ants and he kills one and he kills Anthony, I didn't care.
I
didn't have any... There wasn't oh.
Part of it is I think it would have helped if we got more of Anthony, but it seems to be... It's
still just another ant. It doesn't seem like a special ant that
Well, and it's shown to us in a way up until it's killed, and there's the bit where he feeds it water, but for the most part, it's kind of treated less like a pet, or even there's in westerns and stuff, you have the horse that is basically a vehicle, and when they get shot down, everyone's just just grab another
horse. Or even in this movie, hey, there is 1 million ants.
It's treated like he named a car.
Yeah.
And they treat the ants, like I said, the ants are disposable. They're just there to do whatever.
Ant things.
It does not matter. But Anthony is the one that's named, but we don't get any scenes of him bonding with it, really. We get, like I said, there's a scene of him feeding it water, and I think that's it. He names it, feeds it water, and then it dies. And we get bits
and it dies in the craziest way possible. It's not like he got stepped on or anything.
I will say, like, the fact that it died in such a ridiculous way makes it more funny than anything.
Yeah, and especially since there's like this weird thud. I mean, the bullet's like it's bigger than the ant. It just like takes it out. It's so dumb. And then you watch his wing fall in slow motion. It's so dumb. And you're just like, this dude shot one ant out of the air in a cloud of ants while he's on a helicopter. Are you kidding me?
Now that you mention, he watches the wing fall in slow motion. At the beginning, when Paul Rudd shrinks for the first time, everything big is in slow motion. But I think that's the last time that happens. After that, everything is in real time at all times. But like when Michael Pena
the water,
is going to take a shower, the water and everything is in slow motion. But Paul Rudd is moving normal speed. But I think the rest of the movie doesn't care about that anymore.
No, because it needs to be fast and climactic. Which, yeah, speaking of climactic... Mm-hmm. I kind of mentioned this early on before we started the run-through. It felt like the heist had a weird pace at the end where, again, I knew he had to fight on a train at some point. So I was like, when's he going to fight on the stupid train? But, like, once he, like, blows up the building and kind of accomplishes the heist thing, I mean, other than, I guess, stealing the yellow jacket thing. Like, the heist felt like the climax of the movie is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the movie...
And the fact that there has to be that boss fight. Like, how much better would it be if, like... he didn't have to fight an evil version of himself.
I agree and disagree, and it's weird because, like, I don't think the heist is that interesting, so if we ended on the heist, I think it would have ended, it kind of would have went out with, like, whatever. Because the heist isn't that interesting. There's some fun, like everything else, there's fun stuff happening in it, but it's not that interesting. The boss battle, as much as it is just the boss battle where they fight the evil version of themselves.
It's a fun set piece. It's more fun than the heist
It's a fun set piece. There's a lot of, like, cool, interesting things happening. But it's also just, like, it's tacked on. Like everything else in the movie, it's tacked on. They're all just kind of, like, stapled together, and this is just, like, we need a boss fight. Well, how do we do the boss fight? I don't know. Have them go out, like, we need to connect the daughter back into the story, so Darren Cross goes to take the daughter, and then Ant-Man goes to fight him, and we get a bunch of fun stuff of them shrinking and growing. And
it just kind of felt like everything was working towards the heist, and then the heist was over, and it's like, oh, now they have to fight in a briefcase. Now they have to fight in a backyard. Now they have to fight at his house. Now they have, like...
Everything is going towards that heist, and then the heist
doesn't matter.
It's kind of a failure. It doesn't matter. Like, they do blow up the building, but in the end, that doesn't matter. Like, it's so that Darren Cross can, like, I guess, go full crazy because he's got nothing left to lose. Mm-hmm. But it's also, like, to me, sure, if I'm sitting down here talking about these movies like we do, I might go, like, well, I don't know, the company's still... Well, Darren Cross is dead, so... But I'd be like, I don't know, the company still exists. He still sold the stuff to whatever, so they'd still be able to...
Plus, it's already said that he's already gone crazy because of PIM particles.
But I'm saying, like, I'm just giving the movie some credit. Mm-hmm. If the company still existed, there's a lot of, like, how does all this work out if the company still exists? But there's a shorthand of just, like, if we destroy the company, then, Darren Cross gets pushed over the edge, and you don't have to wonder, like, well, what if they try and reproduce it? Like, there are definitely schematics and crap in that building. Darren Cross did not have... When he runs out of there with his little hero clicks, like, that's not the only... It's the only one that exists. That's not the only one they could make. But, yeah, I mean, the set pieces are fun. Like, I like the train thing. I liked when it kept, like, there was all, like, the dramatic, like, they knock the train away or do this or that, and then it would just cut to what it's like at real size, and it's just like, boop. That stuff is all fun.
It was fun to see the big Thomas the Tank Engine, the big tank.
I did like, this movie does not have a giant blue space laser, but it does have itty-bitty blue bedroom lasers.
It has a bunch of tiny blue lasers, and it has some slow-motion circle pans.
But I thought all this stuff was fun. I also liked, before all this, when he defeats Darren the first time, he just, like, smacks him into a bug zapper. Mm-hmm. But, like, all this stuff is fun, but they ultimately defeat him because we learn that Hope's mother died because she was the Wasp and had another suit that was just like Ant-Man's suit, but also could fly. And, I don't know, Hank Pym never decided to graft wings onto his.
Wings. No, I like riding.
He was like, I like flying this stupid ant. Also, can he only control ants, or could he control other bugs? Like... It's very convenient that they had ants that could fly, but I was like, wouldn't it be easier to just, I don't know, get a bee or a
I think he can
mosquito?
only control ants, because he mentions that they're the perfect animal to control.
It's in the name, so he's gotta.
Yeah, I'm not bee man.
But his wife was the Wasp, and she died on a mission to blow up a bomb, like Captain America origin.
Before it's supposed to blow up.
Oh yeah, to stop a bomb before it could blow up. And the only way they could get in to stop it was to shrink to a subatomic level.
I don't get it.
And so they have like we get that there's like a thing on the belt of the suit that it's like an inhibitor that keeps you from like that's the thing that allows you to shrink and grow at will. Yeah. That's the thing that stops you from shrinking at a certain size, and I assume grows you back to the appropriate size. So when you disconnect that, you can shrink, but then you just continue shrinking. And so he was going to shrink himself to subatomic level so he could go through, or he could go between the like welding on this bomb, but his inhibitor was broken for reasons that we're not told. And so she instead does it herself, and then she disappears and is never seen or heard from again. So at the conclusion of the movie, Paul Rudd decides that he's going to take out, like, I guess the inhibitor thing on Yellow Jacket is on his back. And so he's trying to get in to disconnect it. But in order to do it, he has to shrink small enough to go in between the crevices. So he breaks the inhibitor and shrinks in there. Darren Cross implodes upon himself. And apparently Ant-Man popped out before that happened. I don't really know. But then he's going through the quantum realm and he like...
Yeah, he's too small. He's out of that spot.
Yeah, he does a 2001 Space Odyssey.
Here's my problem with the quantum zone. He has to go into the quantum zone, or he has to go subatomic. Then he will just shrink forever. But he shrinks to subatomic to get through a solid steel plate, because you can't get through steel or something.
He couldn't, like, pry it open, and he was at the smallest that he could currently go with the inhibitor on, and so he wanted to go smaller to go between the welding.
But then he's, like, large enough... He's not, like, subatomic inside it, because he's kicking all the stuff loose.
I mean, I guess you're right. I guess I don't know exactly what
It's a thing that
what
nobody
size he
probably
was there,
cares.
but it is a thing where... Yeah, it is a thing where you're right. He's probably... Once he gets to a certain... Like, once he gets small enough to go through that, he's still exponentially shrinking from there.
And even to be that small to go between molecules.
Like, would you affect anything?
Yeah, at that point, you're too small to be able to take out his inhibitor thing. You know what I mean? Unless the scene was literally him, like, punching atoms.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't really think about that.
Thank you.
You are right. This movie sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately something that does not matter. And, like, it's a dumb superhero movie. Who freaking cares? But it was something that I thought of that I was just like, wait, he's bigger than... You can't go subatomic and then be like this. He was like the same size he was on the other side of the backpack.
Especially because when you see later when they're in the computers and stuff, even before that, when he's on the ants, like, I don't know. I think an ant could fit through there. Like, he's pretty tiny.
You ever see an ant? Man?
Anyway... I mean, you could, and this is definitely not what the movie's doing. The movie just did not care. But I think you could argue that with the inhibitor...
And I don't think it's a problem that the movie did not care.
With the inhibitor broken, I think you could argue that maybe he could still grow, but he could not stop shrinking. So maybe he, gets to the other side and he grows a little bit and starts shooting, but he's still shrinking, so he has to just kind of keep trying to grow. That is definitely not what happened.
It's the Jurassic Park T-Rex paddock, where it's like, where'd the cliff come from? It doesn't matter. It's facilitating a story. It worked fine. It was just something that good old fridge logic. Anyways, he gets rescued by Interstellar.
Yeah, because Pib tells him you gotta... And I think this movie came out... Was this before or after Interstellar? Because I remember I made the same comparison whenever I saw the second movie between those two. Where I was like, it's the same thing,
but Interstellar's
after
is Interstellar.
Worse. Okay. This is the same thing, but Interstellar's is worse. Interstellar's dumb.
He's in the quantum realm, and then his daughter's like, Dad.
And they also say, like, when you're in the quantum realm, time and space no longer matter.
But love still does. Love transcends.
And apparently, Janet Van Dyne did not love her daughter enough, or her husband.
Hank beat her.
Well, not in these movies.
How do we know?
I just don't want to believe that would be something that they decide.
That's why she didn't
come
come
the things
back.
That they could.
She's like, I'm finally free.
Well, and also to Paul's credit, he has one more of those grow discs and he sticks it in his belt. And he's just like, I hope this works.
Your mic like cut out.
And it does.
Your mic cut out a weird spot where you're like, he has one more of these grow dicks.
But yeah, then he grows big.
What if when he put his grow disc in there, he grew big, but then he was the anti-subatomic and he became a celestial because he kept growing infinitely. How about after a dude in a robot suit implodes on himself, Paul Rudd comes back and his daughter's just like sitting on the couch. Her stepdad's just like chilling there. I figured he'd get out of the house.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I guess to them, that all could have been like a matter of seconds.
Time doesn't exist in the subatomic realm.
Yeah, time works differently there. For all we know, the whole time we were watching him do that was like, he literally, like, that dude imploded upon himself, and then Ant-Man popped out. But that's really it. I forgot to mention, I assume this is one of the things you weren't surprised by. We continuously, I think I mean like 3 or 4 times, see that Hank has a keychain of a tank. Hank the Tank.
I finally got it.
When they're trying to escape the building before it blows up, he's like, it's not just a keychain. And then they drive a real huge ass tank with a keychain hiding or hanging behind it. That's kind of it. We get another one of Michael Pena's little story things where we learn that Sam is looking for Ant-Man, and then I assume they didn't return the thing that he said that they were going to steal and then bring back.
Probably not, because
hopefully it wasn't that important because it blew up. And then in the mid-credit scene, we see that Hank has a Wasp prototype suit that he had built with Janet. He's gonna finish it with Hope, and then she'll be the Wasp. I do not remember if it's the exact same suit used in the next movie, but I like the colors on it. The one thing, I do not care for red and black. I think this Ant-Man suit looks fine, and as much as like all the Marvel movie costumes are just like, yeah, I guess that's a more practical version of the normal suit, but just red and black is just something that never appeals to me. And so like the more colorful, she's got like blues and yellows and silver, works for me. And then in the post credits scene,
Bucky.
Yeah, we get a little thing with Bucky where they have his arm stuck in a, whatever that crank metal thing. I don't know what that thing is called. Why can I not think of it? Whatever. They got his arm stuck in a thing. And then Sam's like, we can't contact Tony because of the Accords. And then Sam is like, I know someone. It's the Ant-Man. Why I would trust him to help us with this, who fucking knows? But
he beat me up
in the next movie.
So he must be good.
He dodged all those bullets.
I shot so many bullets at him, Cap. You wouldn't believe it.
That's it. So, Seth, 2 put-ups and a put-down.
Well, I will... I was trying to figure this out, and it's, for as bored as I was during it, it's actually hard because there's a lot of fun set pieces. But I don't want to just say, my first put-up is all the fun set pieces. So I think what I'm going to have to do, we didn't really touch on it, when they're fighting in the briefcase, and he's like, Alexa, play Despacito. That was fun. That was the only time I, laughed at a joke.
Oh, I hated that.
And I didn't laugh.
That was one of the weird jokes that didn't, I guess, hated as strong. That was one of the jokes that didn't really work for me. It was fine.
It wasn't the fact that it played a soundtrack. It was in a similar vein as him shooting bullets at a cloud of ants. It was this is so dumb. This is so dumb. And then when he's like, you're insignificant. And it's playing Insignificant from The Clash. And I was like, this is stupid. But that was the only time I laughed.
Oh yeah, he said I'm gonna disintegrate.
Yeah,
you.
And he's playing Disintegrate.
Playing Disintegrate or whatever.
Yeah, that was the only time I laughed, and I did so begrudgingly. But credit where credit's due. And the briefcase wasn't bad. It zoomed out and they were shooting through the thing. It was fine. It was every other set piece fight. My other put up is going to be, I'm just gonna say it. It's all the set pieces, but in particular, I liked all the gun ones, I guess, because I liked when he's running through the model building. That was good. Yeah, it really could. My 2 put-ups could really be any of these set pieces. I thought they were done well. It is fun to see Ant-Man interact with ants and do ant things and do more than just shrink and grow. I like Ant-Man when he controls armies. My put down is going to be, as much as I just said I hate all the set pieces are a lot of fun, I'm actually going to say the Falcon fight. It feels like I shouldn't, but to save some time, I'm going to say the Falcon fight because you can take it out of the movie without consequence. I don't think it did anything different. We had already seen him kind of use some of those I guess that was the first guy he fought with his shrinking powers, but we already saw him use his shrinking powers and stuff like that. I don't know. If I thought on it more, I'd probably find a better one to put down because there is enough there, but I'm just gonna say the Falcon fight to save some time.
And where do you put this in your rankings of every Marvel movie ever?
I have this at number 4, below the Avengers, above Age of Ultron.
Let's see. My first put up, I like a lot of the set pieces. I'm gonna say the train fight, especially because that's the one that does the most cutting away to the just mundanity.
Making jokes at it.
I thought there was a lot of fun. I think that one's a fun action set piece. I think there's a lot of good action stuff going on, but I also think there's a lot of like funny cutaways and
when he makes the ant grow big,
that really worked for me. I did laugh at that when the ant runs by and the guy goes like, "That's a really ugly fucking dog."
I didn't.
My second put up is, can I say the teaser poster? Because the teaser poster for this movie is great. It's just white, and then there's like a tiny little dot, and then it says Ant-Man.
That's good, but no, you can't say that.
It's really good.
That's separate from the movie.
Then my second put up is, while it didn't do it perfectly, I like the father-daughter relationship. I think that's a better, if you're gonna have like some kind of like relationship and a relationship as an arc, I think that is a much more interesting one than the shoehorned love interests. My put down was going to be the shoehorned love interest, but it's actually going to be when Hank tells the story of what happened to Janet. He and Hope have a scene where, you know, they're crying and they kind of come to terms with their relationship with each other. And I thought it was all very good. And I thought, oh my God. And it lingers for a while. And so I was like, oh my God, this movie that's supposed to be like, that everyone remembers as like the stupid, quippy, well, not stupid, but like the quippy, jokey comedy superhero movie has, I think, the best emotional scene of any of these so far. It was one where I genuinely felt like I believed the characters' emotions. I was invested in their like coming to terms with each other. And I was like, it's not going to cut it with a joke because it sits on it for a good long while. And then Paul Rudd goes, "Oh my God, that was awesome. You guys did." And I was just like, oh my God, could we have not gone with like just once, just one serious moment that isn't cutting the tension with some stupid bullshit quip? So that's where my put down is. Minor put down is the shoehorned love interest bullshit. Literally like right at the fucking end. And I put this, where did I put this? I put this, you know what? You know what? I'm going to knock it down a point.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's such a middling film for me, I guess. You know, like,
I had it at number 1 above Captain America because I put it there because I was like, the scale on which I grade these changes with literally every movie. I put it above Captain America because I was like, this movie, I would rather watch Ant-Man again than Captain America Winter Soldier again. Not because I wouldn't want to watch Winter Soldier again, but it's less fun of a movie. It's a harder thing to just like easily sit through. Yeah, this is an easy movie to pop in, and I was like, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. I think I could easily watch it again without feeling like I have to commit to it like I would the Winter Soldier. But once I had to actually commit to like recording myself saying that Ant-Man's number 1, I was like, I really like the Winter Soldier. And while I like Ant-Man, I think if I were to watch it, like if not that I would watch it again tomorrow, and I don't think any movie would sit well if I watched it again the very next day. But I feel like if I watched it again tomorrow, I'd pick even more holes with it because like I put it above Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is a better movie, but I think I would rather watch Ant-Man again. And I think when it comes down to those two, I can put Ant-Man above Guardians. But I think the next time I come to this list and I look at Ant-Man at the top, I'd be like, you don't belong there. So Ant-Man is currently at number 2 for me.
Yeah, I always kind of just like, now that we have so many movies in, and you know, like I keep...
For you, they're all just one big blur.
I keep saying that, you know,
they either go to the top or they go to the bottom.
Well, no, now they're all just kind of in the middle-ish because it's like, I don't know, is Iron Man better than Thor? Is that better than Captain America? You know, like, it's just like, whatever. And so I just kind of look at the list and say, how do I remember feeling? Again, it's going to be hard to beat the Avengers because I just remember it was cool to see everybody on the screen. And that's a dumb thing of the movie. And it's just like, I think of that and I say, do I remember Avengers more fondly than I remember Ant-Man? And the answer is yeah, because Ant-Man has a lot of, it probably, like you said, it's probably more fun than the Avengers. There's a lot of fun set pieces, but at the end of the day, it's like, the thing I take away from it is just the lack of glue and just like a lot of it's boring. And even those set pieces, as fun as they are, there's no real consequence to any of them. They all feel so isolated and just like they don't have a smooth entry and exit point to the scenes. It's just like, here are fun things.
Yeah, I think as these movies get better, I think a lot of my movies are gonna like, I think the weird thing for me is, and again, it's weird because I say almost the same things as you with different intent.
That's how we roll. That's what makes us such a good team.
I feel like as we go on, there are a couple movies that I know are going to take the top couple places. And I think there's one that I am almost certain is going to take number 1 when we get to it.
Endgame.
I highly doubt it will go below anything else. And I think it's going to keep number 1 for the rest of our run.
Endgame.
That said, I think a lot of movies as we go are just going to hit the same kind of middle, like they're fine. And it's just going to come down to be like going like, where does it belong in the middle? Does it belong above this or that?
And there's no answer. I mean, it's just...
I don't think very many are going to go towards the bottom. I think my bottom ones are pretty much locked. Oh, Incredible Hulk is absolutely going to stay at the bottom. Nothing will ever raise that movie up. But I feel like there aren't going to be many, if any, that go to the bottom from here on forward. But I feel like a lot of them are probably going to hit that middle area where just kind of go like, is it better than this or is it better than that? And then it's going to be like struggling to remember exactly where, because watching a movie recently, I think they're all going to hit better. I think that's why another reason I dropped Ant-Man down is like, if we had watched Ant-Man and then like last week and today we watched Winter Soldier would go above it. But the fact that Ant-Man's fresh in my mind and I'm just like, it's kind of new and it was interesting and engaging, I gave it a couple more points than I probably should have.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at SoHowAbout.
And join us next time when we do this once more with Interference.
Watcher.
So, Seth, now that the mics are off, what are we
watching?
Well,
Andrew, I'm so glad you asked, because we're going to be watching
Captain America Civil War. He's going to go back in time and fight the Confederacy, led by Red Skull the First. You bought the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge.
This Sunday in 1886.
That's not true, because we record on Friday. And we also put these up on Friday, so your Sunday joke doesn't even matter. Anyway.
I can just flip the switch, man.